Hi, Rich Fritzky here. Good to have you back with me, and I thank you so very, very much for tuning in and having a listen. Today I'm thinking, as always, about the world we live in, for God's sakes, and just how much we need ultimately to be forgiven for. Most notably today, there is the evil of Putin and the war he makes in Ukraine. And so for the slaughtered, the displaced, and all haunted by the horror, terror, and dread of it, we pray. Wildly switching gears, I'm going to get into just a handful of tales of my first and only cross-country America journey with Maggie and my son Bill not so long ago. I personally, euphemistically, set off in search of the finest restaurant, coffee shop, cinnamon bun, historical site, moving vista, people in America. We nailed the restaurant on only the second night, and a very good person as well. Our waitress was a kind and open native of Sioux Falls, South Dakota. I personally ordered stuffed nachos as an appetizer for all of us. And the truth is that this alone rendered all three of us virtually unable to touch our main courses. It was dripping with tender, mouth-watering barbecued beef brisket and the best chili I ever had, and all the other stuff that goes with stuffed nachos. It was a towering feast. We could not do justice to it. So if you're ever traveling west to Rushmore, Famous Dave's Barbecue in Sioux Falls it is. Make it a destination. Met an old man the next day, Sam, whose back was cruelly bent, and yet he insisted on helping me in my wheelchair go down a series of ramps. Adorable and beamingly friendly, he told me that he poured the very concrete that I was riding upon some 50 years before. Apparently, as his daughter later told me, he comes there every day at 90 years old to get a little exercise, but most importantly, to make new friends. Suddenly, there in him and his smile and his broken body, my new friend, just as so very kind, lived life to the lees of a man. We next made our way to a Best Western Plus in Sundance, love the name of that town, Sundance, Wyoming, where we met Bobby, a vibrant breakfast bar aide, another great piece of work for this world. At 88, a real youngster compared to Sam the night before, she still volunteered at the nursing home across the street every day. She said it was the only place where she'd go back to visit her old friends. And on Wednesdays, once a week, she'd bake cakes for all in that house and buy the ice cream to go with and have a little party with them. Wyoming and its natural beauty, stunningly natural beauty, rendered the long run to Yellowstone magnificent. Truly, it was beyond the pale. And towards the end of our run through in southern Wyoming, we went down the main street of a town called Cody, and it just bustled with activity from one end to the other. Stage performances of students and musicians were happening on blocked-off side streets. Smiles, happiness, and why not? There was the stunning beauty of God's creation, nestled as they were, smack dab within the White-Cap Mountains. It was wonderful. We exited through tunnels bored into one of those mountains to witness a stop you dead in your tracks, sun going down scaped vista. The rushing waters of the Shoshone River emptied out into a glimmering bay bordered by skyscraper-like mountains of red and orange bedrock. It was just glorious. At Yellowstone, we learned that 90 degrees by day could well be met by 30 degrees by night. And surprisingly, for me at least, that Old Faithful is everything it's cracked up to be. It never moved me in pictures, but to be right there, by it, and watch that little bugger, magnificent. At Chasing Bear Pancake House in West Yellowstone, we discovered a looming candidate in my search for the best cinnamon bun in the land. It was truly Montana Big Sky-like, served warm with the icing just oozing and dripping off the edges of the plate. That cinnamon bun traveled with me for days. We slept in the heart of the Milky Way at our campsite just outside of Zion. And just like Yellowstone at Zion, you baked by day, froze by night. Zion is one of the Creator's greatest of sculptures. Oh, so far from our poor powers to add or detract. Oh, yes, I'm proud to say I have been to Zion, where the Lord of creation puts on a show for free. Of course, Nevada is Las Vegas, Reno, and more, but it largely loomed, at least to me, to be so very impoverished. Little ramshack hamlets and broken down little towns, ghost towns like Goldfield in the middle of nowhere. It appeared as if everyone just woke up one morning and said, "We're taking off," because it looked like so very much was left behind. It should be a tourist destination as a ghost town. Richness is left behind there. There's a wonderful old abandoned fire truck right in the middle of their once fire station. Leaving, I just couldn't help but think the bowers of paradise are everywhere built upon poverty. And that's the sadness that we live in our America. We camped only one night at Bliss State Park above Lake Tahoe. It was only accessed by climbing the most dangerous, awe-inspiring, sharply circuitous mountain road. They don't believe in guardrails out west, not one bit. And you are but a thin white line in a small, tiny patch of grass away from 5,000, 4,000 foot drops. We made it up, but who could possibly sleep knowing that they had to go back down the next morning? Pete's Coffee House in San Francisco hands down became a best coffee house candidate, as so many homeless folks enjoyed it with us. Pete's has a wonderful policy. The homeless are welcome to help themselves out. 1, 2, 3 cups of coffee, bagels, donuts, anything they want. Part of their socially conscious policy. In return, they simply have to give time back, sweeping floors, taking the garbage out, washing dishes, whatever odd job might be called for. I also love the fact that San Francisco seemed to so embrace the LGBTQ community. It was a place that just invited the love. And I have to tell you, I love getting out to Muir's Woods and riding through the tunnel named for our great friend Robin Williams. I recognized it immediately as we approached it as the tunnel where the accident was in What Dreams May Come, one of his great films. But my most special place in San Francisco was Castro, was the Castro section of the city. The section of the city that gave San Francisco, California, and the United States of America the wonder of Harvey Milk. The one man who did oh so much. That was his home, that was his place. Boy, was I taken by the rainbows there, the rainbows on the streets and the rainbows on the walls in every home, and their celebration continually of what he and they in that community were. Harvey Milk was a great American hero. I can hear still. You gotta give 'em hope. You gotta give 'em hope. True, 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 still rings in my head. Brother-in-law Pete joined us at Yosemite, where the grandeur of golden mountains, crystal waterfalls, green pine, blue lakes, and fields of wildflowers rendered it the most stunning of all the stunning national parks we visited. Yosemite, God bless us. Daughter Rosie of Ithaca, New York, surprised us by flying into Vegas to be with at Grand Canyon, where no campfires allowed her and wheelchairs just can't get close to fully embrace the magnificence. But what the hell, that didn't matter. Rosie was with us. Loved the names of the towns we passed, ever reminding us of the richness of our Hispanic and Native American heritage. Names like Geronimo, Navajo. There was San Rafael and San Rosita and Casablanca. There was the Quezon Bridge. That took me by surprise, and it made me wonder who there fell in Quezon, who in that community did. Could a number of local boys have died in that same sad place in Vietnam? Came across the town of Thoreau. Now that sure got my attention. For Concord and Walden, like it was not, but maybe very contemplative. Past low-lying brown and gray and orange desert mountains and mesas and dry rivers and cactus and dust. Past Santo Domingo and Santa Ana and San Felipe in Apache Canyon and San Miguel, San Juan and San Jose. Past unbridled devotion, as it was, to Catholic saints. Past the Pecos National Historic Monument and the Petrified Forest National Park. Past Santa Rosa, Fort Sumner, and the dry as a bone Pecos River. past the Billy the Kid Museum, and all these souls who live in deserts along the side of these endless roads, past the bumper sticker that read, "For a small town, we sure have a lot of assholes," and all the Bible-thumping proof of God with the image of a baby billboards. They were all over the place down there in the Southwest, in a very diverse country, where faiths vary, and what was distasteful about them was not the Christ Jesus advertisement, or even their determination that there's something special about bringing a baby into the world. I understand that. All I knew is every time I saw one, Christ always puts the love first. Those billboards did not. Oh, to be crossing the mighty Mississippi River again, where I swore, and yes, I have a big imagination, swore I saw Huck and Jim making their way north on a raft below. And for just a moment, while still in the car, we were walking in Memphis, looking for the ghost of Elvis, the gleaming city where jazz was in the air, and the Bass Stores Pyramid and the high gleaming St. Jude's Children's Research Hospital sign. Danny Thomas and good old Uncle Tanoose and that girl in Marlowe, and the place in your heart that you send money to even when you have none in your pocket. There, a place in this country that somehow still makes us proud. There where hope still resides, and our brother and sister children are given a great fighting chance to win. Next, we're in Shiloh. I remembered that on the morning of April 6, 1862, 40,000 Confederate soldiers, under the command of General Albert Sidney Johnston, poured out of the woods where we were and struck the encamped divisions of Grant's Army of Tennessee, threatened to destroy Grant's command. Johnston's death allowed Grant to snatch victory from the jaws of defeat the next day. Grant was able to give our Lincoln the little hope that was his at the time, a time when he needed a little hope. My next note is a non-note. I simply let you know that there's too much Lincoln in me to dive into the depths of the detour Billy and I took to go to the land of Abe's earliest days in Kaintuck, other than to say that it was moving. Just before the trek from Louisville to D.C., we secured morning coffee at what was the Coffee and Cookies shop on Market Street in Louisville. They advertised their chocolate chip cookie as the best in Louisville. And while pointing that out to Maggie, a young, sweet African-American woman commented, "That's a lie. They're the best in all of Kentucky, if not these United States of America." She was right. They're the best cup of coffee on the entire trip. I don't know what it is that can make coffee so special, but whatever the secret was, they had it. And they were in the hunt. They were a candidate for the best cinnamon bun. And Maggie insisted that she never had a better breakfast sandwich in her life. So remember, Coffees and Cookies in Louisville, make it a destination. And maybe you'll see Betty, who opened up and spent a little time with us. As to D.C., I got to go inevitably where I wanted. I got to spend an undisturbed hour with Bobby Kennedy by the simple white stone that reads Robert Francis Kennedy and the simple white cross behind it. Just that, juxtaposed to the vast universes of compassion and empathy that dwelled within him. I strongly believe that we continue to monumentally pay for the loss of Bobby, even today. Sure, he was the great political rock star of my life, and in and through him, the political divide that has so keenly sharpened today may well have been healed long ago. A final footnote. Given the exodus from Ukraine, by the way, I dwelled this week upon the concluding words of Thomas Paine's, our Thomas Paine, the one who Lincoln dubbed the Godfather of America, his immortal common sense. He was the first to utter the United Colonies of America. He was the first to utter the United States of America, which was to be an asylum for mankind, he insisted. The final words of his common sense, whether we would be a refuge, a sanctuary. He used these words, an asylum for mankind. And that we are now sadly relegated, even in the face of the 3.5 million exodus from Ukraine, relegated to discussing mere acceptable levels of refugees. I fear in a way that the sun will never fully shine on us again, until we again celebrate and hold up the creed that was in the beginning our sacred vow to be a sanctuary, a refuge, a haven, yes, an asylum for the dispossessed of the world. That's it for today. To all listening, I am so very, very blessed to have each one of you in my life. You give me hope. I thank you all for bearing with my scrambled thoughts and blessing me so. Take care. Smile on your brothers and sisters out there. I'll be back to you soon.